Morning, everyone. We'll get started here. I think that most people have had an opportunity to make it to the proper meeting room. Bob Carroll, our business manager, will be joining us. He had stepped out for a minute, but with me today is Michelle Wally, our principal at the high school, and soon to be our director of teaching and learning. Also with me is Carla Kennedy, our director of technology, educational technology director, I should say, and Bob Carroll, I said, will be joining us in a few minutes. I'm David Petrone, superintendent of Coventry. We're here to talk a little bit about our implementation of the iPad. And it's been a long road for us, but a successful one. And we want to talk a little bit about some of the things that went really well for us, some of the things that were hanging us up, and how we got over those hurdles. Feel free to ask any questions as we go through the presentation. And we like lots of questions, so it'll make it more engaging for you and hopefully a little more interesting as well. The first thing we did as a district, we're a very small district. There's about 2,000 students. We have 4 schools. And our goal was to implement iPads for grade 10 students at our high school. And we wanted a one-to-one tablet initiative. And at the time, to back up a little bit, we didn't know whether we wanted iPads or we wanted a Microsoft Surface or we wanted a Kindle Fire. We weren't sure what we needed. So we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through our presentation as well. But the first thing we needed to do was bring a model in to talk a little bit about where we wanted to go as a district. And the goal here was for our leaders to recognize the interdependence of the various aspects of school improvement. We wanted them to know that each piece of the PELT model, how many people in here are familiar with the PELT model? Anyone? A few of you? Good. So it's so important for us to start someplace. And we felt that someplace was showing the importance of coming together as a district, having one single focus for the sole purpose of getting at our instructional core. And we know that each piece of the PELT model, like I said, is equally as important as the next one. So that was the first part of our challenge, was to bring everyone together and show them that we're working in the same direction and what we're really trying to accomplish here. Next was I worked with the Board of Education. Like most districts that are smaller, we had a great mission statement, but it was very long. Very lengthy. It's about a paragraph. So I held a retreat with the Board of Education, and we worked with Jonathan Costa. Some of you may be familiar with Jonathan. And we developed a mission statement. One simple line that gave clear direction as far as where we wanted to go as a district. Along with that, we developed 3 district goals, which were so important for us to have a single focus, because some of the feedback from our teachers was that, hey, we really like what's happening in this district. Sometimes I'm sure about where we're going and why we're doing what we're doing. So we wanted, again, to develop something not only for our parents, but our teachers as well, to show them, what our singular focus was and how we were going to get there. And everything we promised them going forward would be connected to these 3 goals. Along with that, we worked with the...
how are we framing, some questions we asked ourselves. How are we framing the discussion? How are we building the background knowledge in our Board of Education about 21st century skills and technology, so that when we get to our specific, initiatives like the iPad initiative, that they're already included and invested in the discussion. And the background work that David did with the board in bringing Jonathan Costa in and getting them to develop that mission, so they had buy-in up front because it's their mission we're trying to enact. So that was pretty helpful for us.
Yeah, I would say you could be the smartest person in the room with the best ideas. And you could be leading this great charge, something you believe in so strongly, and you look behind you, and there's no one with you, right? You're all by yourself. So it was so important to start building buy-in, as Michelle pointed out. So how do you do that? You do that by trying to present information in a thoughtful way. And I believe you do that by collecting data to support where you want to go and why you want to go there. So we started working with the Board of Education, administrative team as well, trying to talk about what do we see as some of the challenges, how are we going to get to where we need to be, and what is the pathway to do that. So as a result of that, we started going on site visits, and we started looking at different programs. We started looking at what are some of the challenges, what are some of the expenses associated with doing such a large initiative, and what is it going to look like. And the biggest question we had to answer for people is, how are we going to sustain this? How are we going to support it once it's here? So those are 2 of the biggest questions that we came up against, right? Once you get in a district, it's great. We can have all this technology in the world, but are your teachers prepared for it? Do you have a well-thought-out professional development plan in place? Does your board believe this is the direction that the school system should be going in If they do believe in it, you know, when that next election comes around, how are you going to ensure people are going to continue this? So one of the things that I said over and over to the board is that, you know, technology in this day and age, I'm a strong believer that it's a budget line item. And what I mean by that is just as much you wouldn't say, hey, let's cut out electricity in our budget. We don't need that. I think you need to take the same approach to technology. It's a must-have. It has to be in your budget. If you want the kids in your school system to be prepared for the challenges, you've got to have technology in your budget. So it was so important for us to talk about those types of things, talk about those kind of challenges. And we're fortunate that we have a great board who is very tech savvy, very educated, very much strong believers in doing what's right for education. And they demonstrate that in their actions. So working with them, and they asked really thoughtful questions, and we were able to give them the answers because we had the information at our fingertips. Because we tried to do our homework before we were presenting this information to them, because the last thing we wanted to do was be kind of flat-footed, right? Well, have you thought about how do you know your teachers already? Geez, that's a great question. We don't know if our teachers are ready. So we did, we did a lot of survey data. We collected a lot of information as far as where our staff was currently, what the buy-in was from the staff. So you identify those key individuals in your district before you move forward. Vision for 21st century skills. And we'll talk a little bit about where we headed as a district technology committee. We had a committee in place. And I don't know how many of you, I'm sure everyone probably raised their hand if I asked a question. How many of you sat on a committee and felt like you really weren't accomplishing much, or you wondered why you were there, right? You can raise your hand. Go ahead. It's all right. Feel free. It feels good. All right? I've done that a lot. I've sat there, it's almost like I'm thinking, as a building administrator, superintendent, I'm thinking, geez, the place, I got to get back to work. I got all this work to do, and you're stressed out, and you're sitting there, why am I sitting here? So we had a technology committee, and it was in place. It was there. We could say, hey, do you have a district technology committee? Yeah, we have a district technology committee. We sure do. Well, what are you doing? Well, we meet once a month. We talk about some good stuff, and then we come back and we talk about that same good stuff again next month. And the following month, we talk about that good stuff even more. And at the end of the year, we thank everyone for being there 10 times a year. Well, we felt we needed to make some changes. How do you make those changes? Again, get back to the data and the evidence to demonstrate why you need to make the change and how you're going to get there. So we contracted with Krisst. We did a technology audit. We had them come in. We had them look at everything in our district. No secrets. Let's get it all out in the open. We're not afraid of anything. We know that we can be operating more efficiently, right? It doesn't mean adding more money. It means operating more efficiently. So we brought Krisst in to do an audit, and they looked at everything. They looked at our personnel, our hardware, how we're operating. Where did we have old equipment in place? Where are we spending our money on software in the right areas? So they really gave us a comprehensive evaluation of where we were.
Conversations with teachers. How do you feel about the PD? How does that relate to technology and the infrastructure?
Yep. And again, don't get me wrong, it gets people nervous. Why are you asking these questions? Where are they getting at? And then the other part that even made people even more nervous was we interviewed each technology staff member that we had currently in place. We said, tell us what you do. This is what we think you do, but tell us what you actually do. So we sat down with them, and we talked about, what their job was, what were some of the challenges, where do you see this going? What if you could make anything better, that wish list, what would you do? So we did that, and then again, that makes people even more nervous, like, what's going to happen? Because change is scary, right? Most people are resistant to anything because they're scared of what that change means. And as a result of this study, we decided we needed a really functional technology team, a district technology team. We had to have that in place. So we developed a district technology committee that was going to make real decisions. And those decisions were going to be put into action once they were made at that committee level. So we put key individuals together in the district. And we brought those individuals together. We also included a Board of Education member, community members, individuals that work for CEN. We brought a variety of different individuals to the table, and we said, here's the issues. Let's use this as a think tank, and let's solve some problems. And we started doing that. So that was one of the changes that we made, and people really started to have buy-in. They started speaking up more at these meetings. And it wasn't all perfect. I'm not sitting here painting this great picture. It took time. It took time for people to say, wow, we're making a decision here, and then a couple weeks later, I'm seeing it happening in our buildings. So it really helped create that buy-in. I'll talk about a little bit about total cost of ownership.
So, good morning, I'm Bob Carroll, business manager. As part of the internal self-study there, we were fortunate enough to partner with the CEN. We have an employee of the CEN, which is actually a resident and a parent. So he came in and he gave us some advice, and one of the questions was, how much do you spend on technology? And we had money buried all over in our budget. There's money in the special ed department for IEP Direct. The network technician was spread out amongst the 4 schools. The network administrator was charged to the high school. The financial accounting software was charged to the business office. So we put all that together and actually came up and found out that we're really spending well over $500,000 every year on technology.
Well, one thing I wanted to add, sorry to interrupt, Bob, is that one thing we did was we took the total cost ownership model. Anyone familiar with that? No? We weren't either, so don't feel that. This is the part where it's okay not to raise your hand. We didn't know about it either. And Carla did some research, we talked to other districts, and we said, how are we gonna really be able to present the nuts and bolts to someone if they ask us how we're spending our money, and are we spending it as well as we could? And I'd love to sit here and tell you that every time we purchase new software, purchase a new piece of equipment, we said, do we need the other stuff we bought 2 years ago? No, we just kept adding on, right? This is part where you raise your hand. Anyone else do that? Yeah. Sometimes, right? It's like being at home, right? You can't find a garden tool, you go buy another one, and you have 10 rakes in your garage, right? Same thing here. So we really took a hard look at it and collected, again, the data to be able to present to the Board of Education. So again, we put all that information together in a thoughtful model that was proven to be valid and reasonable, and we presented that information.
What percent of that is your total out of your total budget? Do you know?
What would that be, about
We have a $26 million budget.
6? So.
Okay, that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Yeah, thanks.
26 is
I mean, maybe a 0.25% or so. But it was really enlightening, I think, to identify all those costs and then venture onto that task of, you own this software, they own that software, and they're actually doing the same thing, and why do we own the two?
And to just add to that, how old is everything you own? And how much time are your technicians spending trying to fix something that is 12 to 14 years old? How many people are really using that? Have they just not picked up on the fact that with all the add-ins, there's a new product to replace the one they've been using for 12 years. They just don't know about it. So that's a whole nother part of that certainly when you take each of those large brains and you look at the granular level at what each of the pie slices needs, that's what you begin to find out. So that's where your life cycle management comes in.
Because there was essentially our replacement plan was, and again, full disclosure, being very honest and making this beneficial for you, I hope, is that our replacement plan used to be, it's broken, oh, there we go, okay, let's replace it, right? We don't replace anything until it breaks. And that wasn't the way to go. We were down, it was lots of time that we were not able to be productive as a result of that.
How big is your IT department?
Now we're going to talk about that 1 second.
Okay.
This is my cousin, by the way. Thank you so much. Moving right along here, our technology department, you're right. How big is it? So, I like that we're a small district. $26 million, don't get me wrong, it's a lot of money, but compared to some other bigger districts, it's not a lot of money. But we needed to figure out, again, how we're going to support all this new equipment coming into place. So I needed to, in short order, figure out in a year's time how I was going to be able to restructure the technology department. Our old model used to be, we had an IT person, nice person, did the job, did a good job at the moment, but that structure was designed to fit 10 years ago. We needed something that was going to bring us into the 21st century. And we needed to figure out a way to bridge the gap between education, right, the classroom, and technology. They're not standalone items anymore, right? It's not, here's the computer lab, we go down there to do technology stuff, we do research in there. No, it's all integrated. So we restructured the technology team. And how was I able to do this and not get people nervous about it? I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. We're going to do it better. And we're going to do it with the same amount of money we're currently spending. So I took that pool of money, broke it all up, figured out what I needed, and we developed an IT department within those same operating numbers that we had in place. And that was so key for us because people said, wow, we're going to be able to operate more efficiently. We're going to get better service. We're going to support all this new technology coming in. And we're going to do it for the same amount of money. I guess we weren't operating as efficiently as we could. And it's okay to say that, but you need to take a look at it. So we created our Director of Educational Technology, which is Carla Kennedy, who's here today. We also created a project manager. And believe it or not, although she has a strong tech background, it's not her key strength. Her key strength is managing projects. Why? Because we have Power School coming in. We have iPads being rolled out in a thoughtful way. We have planning of PD. We have report cards that need to be developed. Different components of our system are more automated now, right? You get a robocall when school's been canceled, there's a delay, or you want to put some kind of e-blast out. So there's so many different projects that have to happen. We needed someone that knows how to get that kind of stuff done. So we needed that expertise.
Mr. Patron, you mentioned right up front, something that was tremendously different, and so, from the point of view of a principal, so powerful, is to make the Director of Educational Technology someone who is an education person. Carl's in 092. She's been a school administrator, and so now when we talk, at the school level about we're going to have an iPad initiative and how we're going to get our teachers ready and how we're going to get our kids ready, and we start talking PD, education is talking to education and technology, and we're really figuring out together what's the best way to integrate that technology effectively to teaching.
And that's what I was saying. You have to have that bridge. Again, it can't be a standalone. And you also, it goes back to my other comment, which was if you're leading a charge, right, you want to know that someone's done your job before. So you have an outstanding classroom teacher, a great building administrator, then moving up the ladder. Hey, wow, this is someone who's been in the trenches, has done the job. They get it. They get what this means. You can't just say, here's an iPad, go and use it with your kids. We're able to put all those pieces together for them. So very quickly here, I won't bore you with the details of this unless you have questions, is that many of these positions are part-time. So this position here is a part-time position, part-time, part-time. So we have two paraeducators that are technology little folks that run around and fix all the small stuff that happens from day to day. I need a new power cord. I need you to oversee math testing or smarter balance assessment.
Logging in elementary kids for smart balance testing.
All that fun stuff, right? Data management specialist, we have 1 million state reports. It's all connected here. In addition to developing our assessment data and putting reports together for us. Along with that, we have a network administrator. This is the brains behind the whole operation. He does an incredible job, and he has a technician, 2 full-time positions here that work with him. We have an ed tech coach. Okay, and this is a very, very small, it's like a 0.1 position. So it's a few hours that we have someone, a teacher actually, is paid a few extra hours a week to work with classroom teachers and help them make that bridge because you'll have a more authentic discussion with someone who's done your job than you will with someone who you feel is evaluated. So that was helpful as well.
Does that person function as a classroom teacher and as a tech?
They do, but it's in a different role. So in other words, they know that they have.
So they teach you 2 classes and then they
You got it. Yes. And then our K-8 text instructional specialist and our 9-12 instructional specialist as well. And these individuals, just to make it very simple for you, although they're part of the tech team, they're our library media specialists as well. Okay, so I don't want to give you the impression that we have this gigantic technology department because we know it needs to grow even
So
more.
all those 3 are library media?
This is library media specialist K-8. We have a library media specialist 9-12, and then we have a 6-12 instructional technology support. And that honestly is just a little part-time secretarial position. But these are individuals because we're trying to, again, bridge the gap between, right? We really wanted to be library media specialists, right?
Do you know the FTE for that, approximately full-time for your group?
What are FTE? This is a full-time FTE. This is a point 4, maybe. And this is another full-time FTE.
I don't want to know what you say.
Sure, I can go up top. This is a full-time position.
Yeah.
This is full-time.
Yeah.
Part-time. When I say part-time, half hour, 19 and 3/4 hours. 19 and 3/4 hours. Around 13 hours a week. Full-time. One technician, I'd say, yeah. Ed tech coach is, like I said, a .1 position. It's actually probably an hour, 2 hours a week. The videographer is a $1,700 stipend position. So it's not even anything creative. This is a full-time library media specialist. And this individual, I think, works like 13 hours a week.
Now, where does your power school administrator sit?
Power School is here. She's our project manager. Okay, and she'll organize all the different pieces of any initiative going on related to Power School. We brought Power School in last year. We had an incredibly busy year last year. It was just one thing after another.
You said you had 4 schools, you had high school, 1 middle, 2 elementary?
Our middle and high school are connected together.
Okay.
So we have a K2 school.
Okay.
We have a 3-5 school, which we call our intermediate school. And then we have our 6-8 middle school, and we have our 9-12 high school, but they're connected. They've been connected for about 15 years now.
They're in the same complex.
Yep.
Okay, so you have 3 distinct buildings?
Really 4, believe it or not. The high school and the middle school, although we call it the complex, they're connected by, believe it, like a long tunnel almost. And we share like a library media area, auditorium. We have 3 gyms, but one big gym is connected to the 2 schools. So it was really well done when they designed it. It was really thoughtful. Although it looks like one giant complex, but they're very 2 distinct schools.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other questions before we move on? Okay.
So, once the technology department was restructured, we knew we wanted to move forward, and we were talking a lot about BYOD and tablets. We were very focused on tablets. So we wanted to kind of figure out what direction we wanted to go. We engaged in a number of activities to do so. The first of which was to read a lot, a review of the literature. And so there is in the last page of your packet on the right-hand side a list of resources that we utilized both up front when we were thinking about the tablet, before going forward with the tablet initiative, and then as we began implementing that initiative, thinking of best practices in teaching and learning. We wanted to know what was working in schools around the nation. We wanted to know which devices they were using. We wanted to know the connection between assessments and instruction and curriculum and what schools were doing with tablets. And we saw a lot of themes in our work, and we saw the need to, it's one of the things we discovered through our reading, was the importance of making sure that we embedded in our curriculum and in our curriculum writing in terms of our assessments and our instructional strategies, the use of the technology. We knew that we were going to need to differentiate professional development because everybody has a different skill set coming to the table in terms of use of tablets. We knew we were going to have to continue. We have a very good culture in our district, especially around collaboration. We like sharing ideas. We like our teachers to share ideas with each other. We like to share. We have a very functional, positive leadership team. We really like to work together to create synergy. We knew we needed to keep that going and not isolate ourselves as we went forward with this initiative. We knew that talking with parents and networking with parents was going to be important. They're going to have a lot of questions. They're going to have questions about safety of the devices with their kids and how we're going to manage them in school. Maybe all their questions would have been not necessarily around education. We knew that we were going to have to work together with our students and teach our students not just how to access the apps on the tablet, but how to utilize the tablet to support them in their own learning beyond what the ways the teachers were using the tablets in the classroom. So these are some of the things that we discovered in our research around pedagogy. And then we went and visited.
We put together superintendent put together a big team. Me as the business manager himself. We had teachers. We had the project manager with us, a board member, and we tried to do our research to find out, what kind of device do we need, how does it connect, and all that. So we visited some local schools. We visited Ellington and Mansfield, looked at their Wi-Fi equipment, looked at the devices, how they were using them. We learned little things like in Mansfield. They said, well, we pushed our Wi-Fi out to all of our ball fields, and it made great support from the community that You know, I could be watching my child at the soccer game, and I've got internet access. So we learned things like that. We went up, actually to Burlington, Mass. Has a massive thing. They do tours every day, I guess. So we spent the day up there. But stepping back a little bit, before we went through this evaluation, we went to our old tech department and said, you know, we're going to do tablets as an initiative next year. Give us a budget. And this is what we're handling. Well, we wanted to roll it out to all the 10th graders, at least, and you know, maybe 100 devices for staff members. So we wanted 280 devices, and they said, well, you know, you can get a device for about $200. We'll put in some wireless access points at the high school complex, and you know, for about $60,000, we'll have this initiative going.
Sounded pretty good at the time, right? You think about any project you've done, whether it's at your house or in your school system or whatever business you may be in, right? It always starts out to get you in the door, right? And that's when we ran into the same thing.
I didn't want to reveal that yet. So over the next 6 months, you know, we went out there and we said, you know what, really a Kindle Fire is not going to work for us. You know, we ended up settling on the iPad, substantially more money. And we kind of looked into it. We brought professionals in. Atlantic is actually here today, the vendor that installed our Wi-Fi. And, you know, part of it was some of the site visits we found. There was dead spots all over the schools. We didn't want that. So we came in and said, you know, we really need to concentrate this and find out what it is. So fortunately, in May and June.
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you one-to-one now, or is it still just 10th grade rollout?
It's one-to-one in 10th grade only, but at our other schools we have probably approximately 3 class sets. We have 90 iPads at each of the other 3 schools.
So the high school, why did you choose 10th grade to be?
We can talk about that.
Yeah, we actually, as part of our consensus building, initially we wanted to focus on science and social studies and utilize the iPads entirely in those areas. And we were preparing to buy new books in math in grade 10 to support the Common Core implementation, and our Board of Ed said, gee, we could be accessing our books through our tablets. Why don't we think about one-to-one in 10th grade? So we went that direction, and next year, hopefully, as our budget passes, will be one-to-one in grade 10 and grade 11.
Okay.
So that was why I was selected. But it was, again, just building consensus.
So, will the iPads that you bought for 10th grade, will the children bring them home, right?
Yep, they do. That was another part of the selling point. Not to interrupt you, but that was the other part of the selling point is you bring it home every day.
So will they be traveling with them to 11th grade?
Yes.
So really.
But I will get them back in the summer.
Yeah, we're gonna bring them all in, inventory them in the
From the
summer,
19th.
make sure that
They're coming back.
everything on there that's supposed to be on there is there, and everything that's not supposed to be on there is not.
And what did you choose for the
That's the next one.
Okay.
So we'll hold that one. That's the whole next one.
So during that whole 6-month self-evaluation study and all the site visits and all that, we kind of mapped it out. The department was reorganized. We said, all right, we're going to do this correctly so that 2 to 3 years from now, we're not struggling with replacing. So what ended up happening is we actually hired somebody to come in. So instead of the $600 where it was for 8 access points, it was really $71,000 to have those installed.
These numbers seem
We
a little
witnessed
more
that,
realistic,
and we did a lot of this in May and June. At the end of the year, we had some surplus funds, so we made a lot of these purchases at the end of the year. You know, the iPads obviously was a large chunk of the money. We were able to, when we reorganized the department, we brought in a very highly skilled individual, and we got a parent that actually volunteered to do our K-5 installation for us. So that was equipment only. We were able to outfit 2 schools with wireless.
What did you end up going for the wireless solution? Next presentation.
We can answer those questions at the end, though, if you're not going to attend the next presentation. Oh, good, okay.
What's on the next one?
What is the next presentation?
From wired to wireless. It's right after this one, and it's how you take an old infrastructure, just like you're hearing, and shove all that wireless in and make it work. And we also have students from our help desk to help tell you how we did it. That's the next one right after this.
So we also had some other incidental costs, air watches to manage the iPad, was the applications that we got on there. We did insure all the devices for the 10th graders because they were going to be bringing them home. So we got a insurance policy with a $100 deductible on them. We ended up finding that we needed charging cards.
Now, the insurance, did the parents pay for it, or was that all from the school?
They
No,
paid 20.
We did ask the parents, well, every 10th grader paid $25, which we put in a pool. And then as they damaged them, they paid a second $25.
There's information in your packet on the right-hand side, if we can out to parents or insurance.
They might find helpful. You know, the other thing too is that we really wanted to study, again, the data and collect it, because you spend this amount of money on insurance, but, this amount of money on technology, someone would say, you have to be kidding me. You're not gonna insure these items? So in order to show the community and everyone else involved that we're thoughtful in what we're doing, we said, of course we have insurance. But we are looking at it, and we may eventually, maybe not next year, but maybe the following year, go to self-insure, because if we're breaking only 7 devices, 10 devices a year, it may be more cost effective to put that money in a pool and draw from it and just replace the items ourselves.
Did you buy the Apple?
No, we did not. The reason why we didn't go with the Apple Care, it's a good question. For those who aren't familiar, Apple Care is just like insurance, in case you're not familiar. What we didn't like about the Apple Care, and this is just being in education a long time and not being negative, is that it didn't cover theft. And we were so afraid that a lot of these were going to end up walking out the door, and we wanted to make sure that we were covered for theft.
But I have to say, the iPads are allergic to water, and kids have discovered that, but we have not had one stolen this year, and I'm really proud of our kids.
Just one tidbit of information.
3 will be stolen today, by the way. So thank you, Michelle.
Ask your Apple rep, because they will sell you individual ones for $500. If you buy 10 packs, they give you $20 off. So our total cost to get that up and rolling was a little over $300,000. And as we're moving on, we find out now that we need power over Ethernet switches. All our switches are old. They're all stuck in the custodial closet with no ventilation. So we are embarking, as we speak, on replacing all of our switches and air conditioning all of those areas. So we're at probably close to $450,000 when you add the cables and the toolkits and the this and the that and the other thing.
And the other reason we're able to do, you wonder, well, would you pull this money out of the sky? Because I talk a lot about doing all of this within the money we have. We're so fortunate this year, which was last year, that we had a significant insurance savings and special ed costs. We're able to bring a lot of students back in the district that we had outplaced. Not because of this, just because of the way it played out. And as a result, we were able to have money available to purchase this. So that's where the money came from. It just, the stars aligned that year, and we're able to pull it all together.
That $60,000 really became our slush fund for, you know what, if we're going to buy all these we need a MacBook. We're going to have all these things. So, we ended up having to get one of those for each school. So that $60,000 that was in our budget, kind of was just enough to cover all the extras that we hadn't planned on.
Now, where are
That's okay. No. Good question.
Where are the apps purchased? Where do you buy your apps from here? I don't see that in your financial.
No purchase apps this year. It's a pilot. There's so much free apps out there. We're going free first.
But what about your books?
We had budgeted for books, so it was already in our budget, and we were able to make it happen. Over time, we expect to save money over time.
So it's also important too, moving forward, we've been generating, right, some pilots for everyone. A study, what are you using, what do you need, right? Do you need Coffin for Flash Player? Yeah, we probably do, right? So you kind of figure those pieces of the puzzle out. So we set up for the DPP program so that I can drop a purchase order in there next year. One thing that Mr. Petrone did, I don't know, if you really heard that part, part of the reorg was centralizing a technology budget. You mentioned before it was all over the place, but now moving forward in this fiscal year, that technology budget will be right under my watchful eye, so that I can make sure that we have a pool of money for the VPP purchasing so I can make sure that I have the puff and ask, I can push it out. Because right now the money's all over, and I need a little here, and it's very difficult to try to get what we need and leverage our purchasing power. I just wanted to highlight a couple of quick other pieces that I think are kind of just important to your. We'll be here in this room. This is our room. We'll be here all day. So as you come in and out, we'll be in here to answer different questions. But they mentioned already earlier in the presentation about how important the rebirth of the district technology committee was. It does involve to this day all of the people that you see on the right. So you do have a good cross section of stakeholders throughout from our community, both external, internal, to really hear all of those voices and really make good decisions from multiple perspectives on what needs to be done. We make budget decisions. We look at our ed tech plan as our sort of our beacon, our guiding light to keep us going. We take a look at data constantly through that, different technology surveys that we give. We run pilots through it. We need a typing app. We need something for typing to be SBAC a little bit better. What can we do? So that all happens here. And this is a quick summary of what I'm talking about there. Here's the committee hard at work, pondering over some ideas. We'll see. Earlier in this presentation, we mentioned about why the iPad, what happened. That was not an easy discussion or decision for our team. Just as it says here, how do you promote discourse to kind of create that synergy piece? You gotta talk about that in all those perspectives. And it was pretty heavy on the Chromebook side because they fit into the existing structure. You can use your Active Directory credentials. You can log into there. What are you doing with these things? They're one-to-one personalized devices. They're really difficult to make work in the Windows Active Directory world. I'm not going to sit here and say that that's a cakewalk, because as my IT guy just walked in, my admin, Chris Fighter over there, he pretty much says daily, I hate these things, right? Because they're difficult to make work. But we believe so much in the educational aspect of what they could bring to